So this season units are pretty interesting, but I couldn't find any use for the run-ins. To be honest with you, we will put them in the F tier for now and talk about the Onimusha and Samurai. So, the Onimusha are one of the best glass cannons introduced to the game till now. If left unchecked, or if there is no high TBS or ranged unit to instantly wipe them out quickly, they are very dangerous versus tanks and most of the non-burst damage units, even weak or tanky hero. Let me explain this further. They are the best counter for shields, especially if they have their charge on and ready to go, which will immediately, for example, break the Imperial Shield's block completely and even knock them down, especially if the Imperial Shields are not yellow yet or didn't get into their anti-CC state. And Onimusha will most of the time wipe out Samurais as well, unless you literally have a perfect timing of the skill number 2 on your Samurai, like I did in this video. And as you can see, I lost a few of them to the Onimusha unsurpassed burst damage. And yeah, never try to do this using the skill number 1. If you tried with the skill number 1 and you mess up, your Samurai are utterly dead and you just lost to Onimusha. We will get to this later when we talk about the Samurai. So now let's focus up on building your Onimusha. These are the doctrines I'm using and these are the veterancy nodes I decided to take. And the reason behind my picks is the main damage of the Onimusha is their second skill, so you need to work on it, and its cooldown. The cooldown of this skill is around 7 seconds, and guess what? It lasts for 5 seconds, so you have actually 2 seconds only of cooldown. This skill is utterly awesome. The only thing I want you to always keep in mind is that the Onimusha charge is only, remember this, only for the enemy shields, nothing more. Do not charge ranged, do not charge hikes, do not charge cav. You will need this charge when you face shield. Last but not least, remember that this unit, just like the berserkers, if you press double C, it will move quickly right behind you. And so try to always flank your opponents. They are really great at doing this. Like, watch me going in this clip. Now for the Samurai. As I mentioned, most of you will hate this unit because of its small time opening. If you mess up your timing while using a skill, it's probably gone. And most of the time, you will end up losing your unit, or at least most of it, if you mess up your timing. So, timing is the key for this unit. To make it simpler, if you want to counter a charging unit toward you, your best option is not doing the skill number 1. I mean, it's good if you are not going to mess up your timing and you know what you're doing. However, if you're a new player using this unit, or the charge is very close or there is no time to react, try to time your skill number 2, which is the sweep. In one of my previous videos, you have seen me trying to counter cav charge with the skill number 1. Personally, I counter cav with the skill number 2, not the skill number 1. I mean, it's doable and effective, you can do it, but if you miss the timing, you are dead. However, the skill number 2 can deliver some devastating damage with one hit in the sweep, which is exactly the time of the charging cavalry. Most of the time, cavalry will just wipe you out because of the gaps and the timing of the skill number 1. However, if you just like spread your unit to the side of the charging cav and press 2, this cavalry unit is dead. So in my opinion, the skill number 2 is much more effective since it can wipe out a charging unit with one sweep. Plus, the veterancy line I'm using on the samurai allows them to heal from this strike, and its cooldown is pretty low of around 7 seconds only. Even if I mess up or don't kill any soldier, this skill cooldown is already low, and 7 seconds will allow you to do it multiple times in the fight and always be ready for a flank or a counter sweep. The only problem that I faced with the skill number 1 is it has half the damage of the sweep. Like for example, the first part of the skill number 1 deals 2500, for example, okay? And the second half deals around 3k. Well, with one sweep strike, if it's critical, you can deal 5500 damage. You see where I'm going? So what I'm trying to tell you is the sweeping strike is the burst damage of this unit, not the skill number 1. The skill number 1, I personally use it to push the enemies in a team fight, or to use it while the skill number 2 is on cooldown and I need a skill now to counter a flank or something. Since the cooldown of the skill number 2 is pretty low, even if you don't kill anyone with it, its cooldown makes it always ready for sudden situations. Of course, while building their doctrines, avoid the bracing doctrines, because they do not actually work. Because I know they look cool when you press F1 or F2 and they fix their spears to the ground, but that is not a brace. The game does not count this as a brace by all means, okay? So, for example, if there are fortebracios or camels and you try to rush them, like head on, you will take multiple damage or increased damage from them. However, if you try to do this with the samurai, it will not work. So yeah, you can literally dive them head on with cav or whatever you have. They are not anti-cav unit. They are not actual pike unit. So this tip applies to all the units of the Sengoku season, all the samurai units. They are pretty weak versus range. So try to avoid a team fight with enemy ranged support. If I'm going to make these units into a tier list, I would say the Onimusha is an A+, and they're really good. And the only reason I'm not putting them into the S is because they do not heal as easily or as much as the samurai, and they are of course pretty weak versus ranged damage or versus CC heroes. However, when it comes to the samurai, I would say the samurai are barely A tier unit, because one, they are pretty weak in a team fight if you mess up their cooldown. 2, they are pretty weak versus ranged troops. 3, they are stupidly bad versus cav. So these 3 points actually will make me put them in the B tier. But since they heal pretty well, and most of the time the fight will not be so intense, like I'm talking about a person who's fighting for the Conquerors city or in a tournament or something, this unit is not the best option to go for. But for a normal player who plays Siege, especially if he is low level or new to the game, this unit is utterly awesome. And that's why I say, if you are new to this unit, always try to play with skill number 2 and maximize its damage going with the second veterancy line. You will find it's very effective and very easy to use as a new player to the game. In the end, I hope I did teach you something, and see you soon in the battlefield, warlord.